Mr Speaker, my question is to the Prime Minister. Does he stand by his statement in relation to the Hon John Banks, quote, "The law may be very loose, as I've said before, and the law may well need reforming, and that's something we'll consider in due course, but I'm comfortable with what he's done"?
The Honourable Bill English on behalf of the Prime Minister.
On behalf of the Prime Minister, yes.
Grant Robertson.
In establishing that he was comfortable with what Mr Banks had done, did he ask Mr Banks if he was aware that he received substantial donations from Sky City Limited and Kim.com, and if not, why not?
The Honourable Bill English.
Speaker, the Prime Minister accepted Mr Banks's assurances.
Ask him a supplementary question. Why is he comfortable to have a minister in his administration who both the editorial writers in the Dominion Post and the New Zealand Herald have said should be stood down, and who the police have established directly solicited and received donations which he later claimed to be anonymous?
The Honourable Bill English.
Mr Speaker, the test is whether the police decided to advance prosecution, and they didn't. And secondly, the Minister retains the confidence of the Prime Minister. In fact, there's a history of ministers who have actually been convicted of crimes retaining the confidence of the Minister, such as the Honourable Trevor Mallow.
Supplementary question.
Point of order, the Honourable. Order. Order. Now, members clearly heard a point of order called, and no, they cannot interject under a point of order. The Honourable Trevor Mallow.
Mr Speaker, that member knows that fighting is not a crime under the Crimes Act.
Order. Now, order. I'm on my feet and this will desist. And that member knows that that was not a point of order. Order. I'm on my feet. And if the member interjects like that any further, he won't have the chance to interject further this afternoon. Grant Robertson, supplementary question.
With reference to the Minister's last answer, is the standard that he is now setting for participation as a minister in his administration that lying is okay so long as you can get away with it?
The Honourable Bill English.
No, Mr Speaker, the standard is that the Minister retains the confidence of the Prime Minister. In this case, he does.
Supplementary
Grant
question,
Robertson.
Mr Speaker. Will he support the introduction of a bill that tightens up the laws on local electoral donations, including by making them consistent with the obligations on candidates in general elections?
The Honourable Bill English.
Mr Speaker, yes, the government would be likely to support such a law. It seems to make sense that the disclosure laws for local government political donations would be similar to those for central government political donations.
Point of order, Mr. Speaker.
Point of order, Grant Robertson.
Mr. Speaker.
Order. Point of order has been called.
I seek leave to introduce and set down for first reading the Local Electoral Enhancement of Transparency Amendment Bill, which makes donation regime for local government consistent with that for general elections.
Leave is sought for that course of action. Is there any objection? There is objection.
Supplementary question, Mr. Speaker.
Supplementary question, Grant Robertson.
Can the Minister confirm that he retains confidence in ministers who lie?
The Honourable Bill English.
Mr Speaker, it is not the intent of this government to lower itself to the standards of the previous government, where regular recklessness with the truth was almost a qualification to be a minister.
Question number 3, John. I beg your pardon. I beg your pardon, Dr. Russell Norman. Supplementary question.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Does the Prime Minister believe that John Banks told reporter David Fisher the whole truth when Mr Banks said, and I quote, that he kept the finances of the mayoral campaign at arm's length, given that police found that Mr Banks met with the CEO of Sky City and received an envelope containing a $15,000 cheque, and that Mr Banks personally solicited other donations from people like Kim.com?
In order, before I call the Minister to answer this, of course, there are issues of ministerial responsibility here. The Prime Minister is not responsible for what another minister might say. I haven't ruled the question out, but I just alert members that is the case. The Honourable Bill English.
Mr Speaker, the member can speculate about who said what to who when. The fact is the police made a decision not to proceed with the prosecution, and the Minister retains the confidence of the Prime Minister.
Supplementary.
Dr. Russell Norman.
Why does the Minister retain the confidence of the Prime Minister when John Banks, as a Minister, said, "I kept the finances of the mayoral campaign at arm's length," when the police found that that was manifestly not true, and that as a mayoral candidate he sought and received donations personally?
The Honourable Bill English.
Well, Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister takes a view that the Minister has conducted his role as a Minister to a standard which maintains the confidence of the Prime Minister.
Dr. Russell Norman. Order. That will be sufficient. I've already alerted that member that he's skating on thin ice. That kind of interjection is unacceptable. That is the last one. Order. Now look, I warn the member this would be a pretty better order. The member will sit down. I'm fast losing patience because the member knows that he's breached the standing orders of this House several times this afternoon, and I will not tolerate it any further. If he wishes to call a point of order, he may. Dr. Russell Norman, supplementary question.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Order.
Is this now the ethical standard of the key bank's government that ministers can tell reporters statements that are manifestly untrue and that are found to be untrue by the New Zealand police and yet still retain their jobs?
The Honourable Bill English.
Well, Mr. Speaker, as the member will be aware, the police conducted whatever investigation they conduct and made a decision not to proceed. The Minister retains the confidence of the Prime Minister, and I think pretty much everyone agrees that the law as it applies to central and local government political donations should probably be better aligned.
Point of order.
Point of order, Dr. Russell Norman.
Mr. Speaker, my question was as to the ethical standard, as referred to in the Cabinet Manual, of the key bank's government, and I haven't heard an answer with regard to the ethics in the answer that the Minister gave.
Well, I think the question sought an opinion in that regard, and I think the Minister, on behalf of the Prime Minister, gave a pretty clear answer that in relation to compliance with the law, and I can't require ministers to give any particular answers when their opinions are sought.
The point of order.
Dr. Russell Norman, point of order.
Mr. Speaker, I appreciate that, but this was a question, not a point of law. It was about ethical standards, and the reason why that's relevant is because of the Cabinet Manual, and the Prime Minister needs to have confidence in his ministers that they're sticking to the Cabinet Manual, which speaks of ethical standards. And the Minister didn't address that.
No, order. In fairness, the Minister, on behalf of the Prime Minister, has made it very clear that the member in question, the other Minister in question, retains the confidence of the Prime Minister. He's identified the standard of being important as that the law has not been breached, and I can't ask him, and if that is the standard in relation to the question the member asked, I can't ask the Minister to identify any further standards. That was the answer the Minister gave. Yes.
Point of order, Mr. Speaker.
Point of order, Denise Roche.
I seek leave for the Members' Bill, the Local Electoral Finance Amendment Bill, to be introduced forthwith and for it to be set down for first reading as Members' Order of the Day number 1 on the next Members' Day.
Leave is sought for that course of action. I take it it's a different piece of legislation.
It is indeed.
Leave is sought for that course of action. Is there any objection? There is objection. Question number 3, John Hayes.